How is everybody today? Wow, that light is really bright. I hope it makes me seem taller. So, how long have you been sitting like this? Since about 10. Get up. Come on, guys. Let's get up. Let's stretch out, okay? I didn't get the memo about a hoodie and shorts, okay? But normally I like to dress. So for everybody that's standing, I'd like you to stay standing if you own a piece of property. Everybody who doesn't, sit down. Congratulations. You should be very proud of yourself. Now, I'm not doing this to make you feel any personal way for not owning a piece of property. I want to prove a point. It's about half of you. And the answer is each one of you who's sitting down, you do not need any experience. You do not need any capital or any credit. Did you know that? You guys can sit down and relax. Okay? Great job. You don't need anything. You need to actually just get off the sidelines and try to buy a piece of property. And how do you do that? And I'm going to give this pretty quickly because most people don't know that in the United States, that anybody can buy a piece of property and live in it with a credit score of around 500. And there's a program through FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, okay, that will give you 96.5% financing to buy a 1 to 4 unit property. Is that 4? 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah. And allow you to live there for 12 months. We can show you how, a hack, how to stay there for 90 days and go on to a next property. But you can actually do this without any capital. 96.5%. Think about it. If you bought a home for $200,000, how much is that you have to put down? $7,000. If it's $300,000, it's $10,500. Everybody in this room has that. But guess what? If you don't, you can get a Chase card, a Chase Ink card, and I'll tell you really quickly on how to turn that into $40,000. You form an LLC, you apply for the Chase Ink card. They will base it on your credit. They're going to look at what your income is, but they're going to give you $5,000 to $10,000 or $5,000 to $50,000 on that card. You can use that card for your down payment. So you don't need anything. You just need to get off the sideline and do it. And you don't need to be afraid, because in life, when do you grow? Guys, when do you grow? When does things actually crystallize in your brain? When? When you fail. And when you fail, that's when you realize, okay, I did this wrong. What am I going to do to change it? When you fall on your face, the mere fact that you fall on your face, what happens? You fall forward. Now, a person like Melissa, who I'm still sore from doing yoga with her in Tulum, okay? Still mad at you, Melissa, is incredible because she learned how to create something from what she loves and make it a business. And what I learned was that I actually love teaching people who have no experience how to change their life, because that is our mission. Our mission is to make someone's life different. And when you do that, it makes your life better. So I don't want to get into all the machinations and mechanics, but guess what? If you want to buy a property that needs renovations, that same program has another program that's attached to it. It's called 203K Loan Program. I'll say it again, 203K Loan Program. And it's crazy enough that they give you 110% financing. And if you bought a property that wasn't a single family home, that was a 2, 3, or a 4, you would use all that rental income to push up what's called debt to income ratio, which is how they qualify you. And that would allow you to buy a bigger property. FHA's max loan is over $1.2 million. Could you buy a property here in Doral for $1.2 million? Absolutely. And guess what? It would probably make you money. And since we started doing this, I'm new to this space. I started doing it. We opened up our school in June. We've had 57 people. And in the back, I want to welcome Jason and Mariella, his wife. They came down. And I will tell you that they are always on our calls. And we're not typical in this industry. We are on the phone. In total, we do 25 calls a week. I am on our calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we teach, we solve problems, we go through deal analysis, and we're trying to make a difference. We're not these big, fancy, crazy gurus. Maybe I dressed nice today because I like to dress. But I did this to come for my friend Daniel G., who I think is incredible. And if he told me to go and speak to a room of 2 people, or 10,000 people, if he asked me, could I wash his car, I would do that because that's what friends do for one another. So if there's anybody here, because we're really short on time, I would love to field some questions. Anybody have a question?
You say that to buy real estate, but is it better to buy like not a house, but like a store?
Well, there's lots of investments. Lots of investment vehicles, okay? You all are here because you made an investment in yourself. Now that is tangible to you because then you can put those skills to work and generate yourself income, correct? When you buy a piece of real estate, what does it do? If you do it right, it appreciates, that's 1.
Cash flow.
Pardon?
Cash flow.
Cash flow is 2. There you go. That's the master of everything. Because when you make a lot of income in the sales industry, you want to be able to shelter your income. You own that real estate, it does 3 things. And then the craziest thing, real estate, do you need a roof over your head? What are the 3 necessities? Food, clothing, and shelter. So when you decide that you want to rent that to somebody else, if it's a single family home, and you get out of the FHA program and you go with a conventional, then you can rent it and it's just going to continue to grow up in value. Here's the one thing. What happens every year in this country? Inflation. So you don't have to do anything and your property's going to go up in value. You can buy a stock, but I wish I knew how to work this because I'd show you a real quick example. Just picture this in your mind, all right? If you had $100,000 and you put it in a stock, a balanced fund, what's a balanced fund going to yield you guys? Let's pick an easy number. 10%. So over the course of a year, that 10% is going to make you 10 grand, right? If you took that same $100,000 and bought a piece of property and put down 20%, how big of a property could you buy? $500,000, $500,000. If we take 10% on 500, what's that return? 50 grand. Would you rather make $50,000, have shelter, have cash flow? Or would you rather buy Starbucks, which is a good stock? Okay. You'd rather have 50 grand. Because guess what? You can take that 50 grand out the next year and buy another piece of real estate. And if you take these very simple approaches, you do not need these 30-step processes by all these gurus that went out and did 5 deals, 10 deals, and bought a Rolls Royce or took pictures in a jet. You don't need that. You need real, basic understanding. Now, you can do this by buying a book. My mother gave me a book when I was going into my junior year. It was called Nothing Down by a gentleman named Robert G. Allen. He's the founder of every one of these real estate courses. He created them with his book back in 1979. He came up with very, very simple concepts of how to buy things with little to nothing down. That's why his book is called Nothing Down. It's been reinvented year after year after year. The flipping business which is now the wholesaling business, they repackage things. Everything is repackaged. There's no new original ideas except things like AI, that's technology-based. But hard assets, no. Yes, kitchens look better. Roofs last longer. They're building homes with Taco blocks. They're using pressurized, pre-engineered wood to build a home. But guess what? It's still a necessity and you still need it. And you can't live without it. So, do I have another question? Yes.
Are there advantages in different geographical states, areas when investing?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope you guys are all Republicans. Because red states typically give you a much better execution and a much better outcome. In a blue state, you're going to have good economies. You're going to have the ability to succeed, but you're going to have some other hurdles. So a hurdle from when you're an owner, operator, if your resident is not paying, you may have to ask them to leave. In a red state, it's very advantageous when you're the owner. In a blue state, it's a little more advantageous for the person living there, okay? But what you can do is you can gain enough knowledge so that when you create your lease, you pack in all the provisions so that when the time comes, they haven't paid you, it's time to go. Now, you don't throw people out on the street. You treat people the way you want to be treated. So you go to them, you talk to them, you ask them, how can I help you? How can I make a difference in your life? How can I get my home back and help you go to another place? It's a program when we buy a property that has somebody that's being evicted, we call it cash for keys. We go, we sit down, we say, look, what's it going to take for you to get a new apartment? You need $1,500 versus having somebody come in and destroy your unit and you spend $10,000, $5,000 to fix it. So there's always a way, there's always a workaround, there's always a hack as long as you know what you're doing. Now, like I said, you can buy these books and you can learn it from the books. You may make some mistakes, but you can decide on how you're going to do this quickly. You're here because Daniel has already created a process, because Daniel knows what works and what doesn't work. And after years and years, and I've been kicked in my face, knocked down, had to give keys back to properties, failed numerous times, I'm still standing. You want to know why? Because it goes back to all the basics. Simplicity is what works in life. When you love somebody, you say, I love you? No, you look them in the eyes and you tell them that you love them. When you respect somebody, do you treat them poorly? No, you treat them properly. So what Melissa was saying, which I love, is attraction. You want to attract good, you put good out. You want to attract bad, you do bad things. Now, we all have done things we're not proud of, and we have to let all those go. And we have to go forward through any type of adversity because it's only going to make you stronger. God doesn't take great people. What happened to this recent president? He got indicted, he went on trial. They shattered him. They tried to rip him apart. But guess what? The truth eventually comes out. God takes you, he tears you apart so he can make you better and stronger for something great. So, can I get a time check?
10 minutes, Mark.
10 minutes. Thank you, Moose. So, if there... Pardon? Pardon, bro? Oh, well, where is Moose? Oh, Moose left already. Yes. All right, Chief. He's taller. I always thought you were taller. What, you got a question back there, bro?
Sure. I'd like to ask you about leverage. I see your content all the time, and I see you represent that word resonate. Tell us more about that.
Sure. Guys, that's Adrian. Adrian was the second person that came to work at Shapiro Capital. Christian was the first one. Christian was the one that got me out of my comfort zone to actually speak. I didn't know I could actually speak. I didn't even know I had a voice, okay? But there's so many people out there that are preaching all these things that just don't work. And why does real estate work? We just gave the example. Why did we get a 5X? Because we applied leverage. We used $100,000 to buy a $500,000 property, and we borrowed the other $400,000. That is leverage. Guess what? The more leverage you have, the more exponential your return is. The greater the leverage, the greater the return. If you learn how to financially engineer your properties, if you learn how to do this with not creating too much stress, you can leverage them as high as you want. And the more leverage, every year they're going to appreciate, and they will actually, your debt will be paid down. And one of the cute things that we teach is the banks don't want you to know, and you can borrow money for 30 years and pay it down in 7.5. They don't want you to know this. There are a lot of things that society keeps from us, or the upper echelon doesn't want us to know, because they want to stay elite. Now, what's wrong with everybody having a piece of the pie?
Not enough love.
Then they gotta love more. You gotta show it. So maybe we should change our mantra from leverage to love. So, because we love our students. And I will tell you, sometimes when they're new and they have no concept, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And even for our north of the border students, we had to create a program to teach the Canadians how they could come here legally and buy properties. And we're doing that successfully. And we're at a point where we're growing exponentially to make a change, to help people. So, and we're not that far. We're in Wynwood. That's where our office is. So, yes, young man.
Question. You know, I feel like you seem very, very in terms of like everything, like not just money oriented, but it's really like who you are and the core values. And so I've realized that at this point in this day and age that common sense is not so common. Do you feel like?
I say that all the time. It scares me.
Oh, it scares me too.
It's
Whenever
scary.
I watch your content, I feel like there's a million similarities, and that's a good thing because that's common sense. But do you feel like within everything in your life, this common sense too was always, it's a bit personal, but this common sense too was always something you had? Or was there like a switch or a realization? It was like, wow, this is really what it is?
Wow, that's a tough question. I really have to give a lot of consideration to it. But growing up in a good family, both my grandfathers were developers. My mother was a residential broker. She became a commercial broker. She sold me my first deal. My father wanted me to follow in his footsteps and be a dentist. His two brothers were dentists. My two cousins are dentists. I didn't want to do that. But thank God. And if you notice, I wear a kippah, which is a yarmulke. And the only reason we wear a kippah is it reminds us that Hashem, or God, is above us. And today, I broke Shabbat early for my friend, okay? I made a calculated decision to do this, okay, because I love Daniel. Daniel's the first person that said, Mark, you have a voice. Let's go smoke a cigar. I want you to come to my events. So sometimes, and I don't know what my Rebbe will say when I go, my rabbi will say when I go to daven on Monday at the Shul's temple. He'll probably ask me, am I feeling okay? Was I sick? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell him, yeah, I was sick. So, because he'll give me Jewish guilt and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. No, they're very understanding, my rabbi. So, but to answer your question, growing up, people were nice. Growing up, people were kind. Growing up, when you watch the news at 6 o'clock, they reported the truth. They didn't create something to scale or push you in a different direction. This country stood for the law stood for moral reasons. They changed laws for moral reasons. We put our money where our mouth was, and we made big rockets and we went to other universes. We did all this stuff. But we did it all because we knew the truth about things. We knew what this country was built on, and it was built on a strong foundation. It was a foundation of caring for one another. I used to remember when somebody in the neighborhood would have a loss, a family member. What would my mother be doing? She'd be making them dinner and bringing it over. So we're not genuine enough to each other. We're not kind enough. We're using an app to order our coffee, okay? We're using an app to do our dry cleaning. We don't hold the door. We don't say hello. We don't smile enough. So if you just do that one thing, you don't know, maybe you'll change someone's life. Maybe someone's having a bad day. So I'm going to wrap it up because we're going to run out of here. But I want to thank you all for your time. One last question, young man.
What areas in South Florida right now would you say applying for grabbing into the properties in terms of investment right now?
There are no specific areas that are good or bad here in South Florida. There is the inventory is spiked up, which means things are selling slower, which means prices are compressing, coming down. We're seeing some loss in Wynwood. It's overbuilt. It's not absorbing. That means that they're not renting. We've seen some foreclosures in Midtown. We're seeing a lot of deals go bad. So right now there's about $3 trillion of toxic loans on all the bank's books from the carnage of Dodd-Frank in the 2008 financial crisis. So there are a lot of deals. What you need to do is you need to pick your market, and you need to decide on that market and become an expert. I tell our students, pick 2 markets. I know Jason came down here. They moved from New Jersey. Him and his wife are lovely. They're always on the calls. And I believe you found a deal? Winter Haven. And I believe you're selling the deal already? Got it. Got it. So the way you financially engineered it, does it cash flow?
Yeah, we're going to close on Monday, and we're going to
Okay. All right, guys, I want to thank you. Jason, I'll see you Tuesday. Mariella, I'll see you Tuesday. Guys, God bless. I'm going to jet. All right?